Hello and welcome. You're watching India Decides. I'm Vedant Agarwal. Well, less than 48 hours to go for the big phase 4 of the Lok Sabha polls, and this time it's going to be an extremely interesting phase. 93 seats across 10 states, 96 seats in fact, across 10 states going to polls in round 4 of the Lok Sabha polls. You have big opposition faces in the fray as well, from Akhilesh Yadav, Mahua Moitra, Asaduddin Owaisi, Vaiz Sharmila. Of course, on the BJP side, you have Giriraj Singh. So crucial faces in the fray. And interestingly, you also have parallel polls, assembly polls taking place in Odisha as well as Andhra Pradesh. So a lot at stake as far as phase 4 of these elections is concerned. And joining me, our team of reporters spread across the length and breadth of the country. I'm being joined by Ratndeep Chaudhary, who will decode the politics in Odisha for us. Prabhakar is with us as well. Nazir Masoodi also with us. Nazir, first to you. Now, these are the first elections after the scrapping of Article 370. A lot is at stake as far as Srinagar is concerned. You have a terror victim versus a terror accused in the fray.
Exactly, and BJP is not in the fray. Despite BJP talking about that they have brought peace in the valley, their terrorism has ended and the situation is normal. But when it comes to election, BJP is not contesting all the 3 seats in the valley. Having said that, there are 24 candidates, but the main contest is between the PDP and the National Conference. PDP's candidate is Wahidur Rahman Para, who was the poster boy, rather the face of the BJP-PDP government's youth initiative, but ended up in jail under UAPA charges post abrogation of Article 370. Against him is National Conference candidate Aga Ruhullah, who is a victim of terrorism. His father was killed in a powerful IED blast almost 2 decades back. So, both are young faces. Both have led a very, very effective campaigning across Srinagar, which is spread over 5 districts. Pulwama is part of it. And interestingly, in last parliament elections, when Pulwama was part of Anantnag constituency before delimitation, it recorded just 1% polling. But this time, the campaigning indicates that both in Srinagar and in Pulwama, this election is going to defeat boycott politics in Kashmir before electing its new MP in Srinagar. So very effective campaign by both the parties. And the question is, will tomorrow, day after tomorrow, Srinagar will leave behind its boycott legacy? So that is the first important thing about this election, because for the last 3 decades, urban centers, it's not that entire Kashmir would boycott elections, despite boycott calls, militancy, because militancy has lost its coercive power long back. Despite their threats, majority of the Kashmir would come out and vote, even before 2019. But there were urban centers like Srinagar, where even we would wait for the whole day. Nobody would come and vote, and the polling officers would wait for the whole day if somebody will come and vote. But this time, things appear to have changed, given the fact we see large number of people participate in the election campaigning. Having said that, the election authorities have imposed restrictions under Section 144 across Srinagar parliamentary constituency.
Right.
Since this morning, it is a dry day. All liquor shops have been closed. All polling stations have been declared as smoking-free zones, no smoking zones.
Okay.
So those are interesting things for these elections. But the interesting thing would be how many people would come out to vote. Will Srinagar finally leave behind its boycott, no voting legacy?
Absolutely.
And it appears to be a very, very interesting election in that perspective. But in this whole election process, we saw, well, BJP was not contesting. It was central to the regional parties' election campaigning, blaming BJP for every wrong in the valley post-abrogation of Article 370.
So pretty incredible there, Nazir, isn't it? That you already see one positive sign at least, that, this election has defeated that legacy of boycotting polls. So positive side there. Thanks very much, Nazir, for that. Prabhakar, going across to you as well. So this time, the Bihar election is extremely interesting. You have big faces in the fray, from Lallan Singh, Giriraj Singh, of course, Nityanand Rai also in the fray. But what are some of the X factors defining the constituencies going to polls?
See, out of 93 seats which are going to poll today, 9 are from Bihar and Jharkhand, 4 from Jharkhand. This is the first time Jharkhand will be going to polls, and 5 from Bihar. Talking about Jharkhand first, Singhbhum, Lohardaga, Chatra, and Palamu are the Khuti and the Palamu are the constituencies which will be going to poll today. And remember, poll tomorrow. I'm sorry. And remember on 13 when all the eyes would be on Khuti, because that is where Arjun Munda would be contesting. He would be seeking re-election for the second time. Arjun Munda happens to be a senior union minister. Talking about Bihar now, the 5 constituencies right from Darbhanga to Ujjaipur, Samastipur, Munger and Begusarai. And this would be a very high profile constituency because of the candidates in fray. Lalan Singh is contesting from Munger, Begusarai. You have Giriraj Singh and you have Nityanand Rai from Ujjaipur. So this becomes high profile constituencies because of these senior leaders. And remember, all these seats actually have been held by BJP, by the NDA. So it is basically for them to defend this territory, they have to defend this terrain, because all these seats presently are being, these are the NDA seats. And the very interesting fight also going on the Samastipur seat, where the kids of 2 of the ministerial colleagues of Nitish Kumar, the JDU ministers Ashok Chaudhary and Maheshwar Hajari, they are contesting against each other. Though they are the JDU ministers, but their kids are contesting against each other. Maheshwar Hajari's son is a candidate from Congress, so that would be a very interesting battle. We have been reporting from there. And the fate of these high-profile ministers, 2 union ministers, MOS Home, Nityanand Rai from Ujjaipur, Giriraj Singh, Union Cabinet Minister from Begusarai, and Lalan Singh, who happened to be the national president of JDU, he would be seeking re-election from Munger.
Right, Prabhakar, thanks very much for that. So, of course, Bihar and Jharkhand, interesting contest in both the states, and of course, Jharkhand going to poll for the first time. Ratndeep Chaudhary is also with us. Ratndeep, Odisha, of course, extremely interesting that this time you have parallel polls, simultaneous assembly elections as well. And it has been a rather heated campaign with the Prime Minister taking on Naveen Patnaik retorting, the BJP set to take on its ex-ally. What all is at stake? Naveen Patnaik eyeing a return, 5-time Chief Minister. So, of course, that is also interesting. And how much is a Pandian factor going to be important?
Absolutely. Remember, at the beginning of the campaign, before the campaign began, there were political murmurs about a possible alliance between these 2 former allies, the BJP and the BJD, which did not materialize on ground. And today, when the campaign for the phase 4 ended, we saw that already the BJD and the BJP have launched a no-hold-bar attack on each other. Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself had campaigned hard in the fortress of BJD in places like Behrampur. Behrampur is going to be one of the key seats there, which is going to polls, because this is part of the Ganjam district, the home district of Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik. So somewhere, in the campaign, the target has been, the BJP has spoken about the issue of the Odia Asmita, safeguarding the culture and language. And why they have been speaking about this is because of the number 2 in BJD, Mr. V.K. Pandian, the former bureaucrat turned politician, a Tamilian who has settled in Odisha, and BJP is targeting him as an outsider. But remember, at ground zero, when we spoke to people and even journalists who have been covering Odisha, they said this is also a fight between 2 political images. One, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the central leader of BJP, and Naveen Patnaik, who has been the chief minister there for 25 years. He is eyeing a 6th straight term. However, if you see, BJP started its campaign from Behrampur. In Behrampur, you have a tough fight between 2 turncoats. In one side, you have BJP candidate Pradeep Panigrahi, once a minister with the BJD, once a very close aide of Naveen Patnaik, now with BJP, and the BJD candidate is Bhrigu Bakshipatra, who was the state vice president of the BJP. So therefore, there are a lot of turncoats this time.
Yes. In
the fray. Also, along with Behrampur, you have 3 other seats going to polls. Kalahari, where you have now the BJP giving a ticket to a member of the erstwhile royal family. You have the Koraput seat, the only seat which is with the Congress. There Saptagiri Ulaka has a tough fight against BJP and BJD to retain that seat. You also have the tribal resort Navrangpur, where there is a triangular fight, very strong fight, and you have Behrampur, where the main key fight. Remember, apart from these 4 seats which are going to polls in the first phase, out of the 21 in in Odisha, you also have 28 seats of the 143 member assembly which is going to poll. So therefore, whether BJP increases its tally, last time it went up by 7 seats from 1 to 8, and whether now BJP goes into double figure in Odisha or not is a very important factor, and whether BJD is able to hold on to its seat is also an important factor. But in the assembly, BJP would like to increase its number of seats. BJD again would like to hold on to its fortresses, particularly areas like Behrampur.
Absolutely, Ratati. Thanks for decoding that, because of course, the BJP and the BJD have been an alliance at the centre, though they have fought assembly elections against each other in the past as well. But we have decoded the politics of it. But quickly, looking at issues of the voters as well. And Nazir, starting with you, you've been spanning the length and breadth of Jammu and Kashmir. Do you see some sort of invigoration, some sort of excitement, enthusiasm with elections being held, after the scrapping of Article 370? Of course, security was a big concern in Jammu and Kashmir, which is why simultaneous polls couldn't be held. But what is the sense that you get on the ground as far as voters are concerned?
Well, this is first time after many years people have got a chance to express themselves.
Yes.
Because Jammu Kashmir doesn't have a elected government for last 6 years. Last assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir were held in 2014. So now you can imagine where politics were essentially in a state of suspended animation for all these years. Political parties could not carry out their political activities. So the politics actually is the soul of any vibrant society.
Absolutely.
That soul actually was not functional. And that's why that has caused a great deal of damage to the social structure as well, because politics is not just about forming a government. It is building a credible social structure also. And in militancy, because of militancy 30 years back, that social structure was damaged. That's why so many uncertain characters cropped up in Jammu and Kashmir, which actually ruined the social fabric.
Absolutely.
Having said that, during this election, important issues were rather they were talking about Article 370, how it has damaged to this, about the land issues, about job issues, about identity issues, about other avenues. All these things were central to the election campaigning.
Right.
And people have been largely talking about that. Look, there has not been much, development or the jobs, and they were talking about land issues. And it was not specific to the valley. You talk to people in Kutwa, Jammu, anywhere, any part of the, you see the situation in Ladakh where we have seen they were launching a massive campaign demanding 6th schedule and the statehood as well. And they were saying that now their lands and job is not safe.
Right.
So that is always the issue here. So those issues are also dominated elections in this phase as well.
All right, Nazir, thanks for that. Prabhakar, as far as Bihar is concerned, also Jharkhand, do you see national issues taking center stage, or, local issues and local disillusionment, whether it's unemployment, joblessness, a paper leak, of course, also a big issue in Bihar?
See, when you actually talk to the voters out here, they always talk about the development issue. They always talk about unemployment and job creation and stuff. But the harsh reality of the Hindi heartland is that it's the caste actually which drives the election agenda out here.
Yes.
And Lalu Prasad Yadav or the India Alliance has played this caste factor very well. The caste engineering of Lalu Prasad Yadav is visible on the ground, and that has actually cornered all these big names which are in fray on the 13th or on the 4th phase of the election. Be it Lalan Singh, be it Giriraj Singh or Nityanand Rai we are talking about. And that's the reason. See, in Bihar there's a very interesting saying. You don't cast your vote here, you vote your caste. So this is the unfortunate reality of this Hindi heartland, and Lalu Prasad Yadav knows this caste engineering very well, so he has used it very wisely among these high-profile names who are actually seeking re-election for the second time, and they're all in difficult situations. So I would not say there are any of the constituencies which will be a cakewalk here.
Right, I'll also introduce my guests shortly, but Ratadi, very quickly, I have the last 30 seconds on this. What about Odisha? What do you see as a central issue for the voters?
Well, for the voters, the central issue would be basically, Odisha, if you look at the last election, had some areas, particularly western area, Odisha, tend to have voted for the BJP. So they would like to perhaps go for, the party which is in power at center for the Lok Sabha. But for the assembly election, still perhaps the BJD has an edge. However, the BJD, remember, has a very strong following among the women, the self-help group members. That is a strong vote bank. Also, there are several schemes which were launched over the years by the Naveen Patnaik government. However, the BJP has also made certain promises. So it is going to be a very interesting election as BJP tries to make a foothold and create a position for itself in Odisha.
Absolutely. Radni, thanks very much for joining us with that. Radni, Nazira and Prabhakar reporting from across the country as we all set for Phase 4. Let me introduce our guests now on India Decides this evening. Sandeep Shastri is with us, National Coordinator of the Lok Niti Network. Nishtha Gautam, Senior Journalist, is also with us. Mr. Shastri, going across to you first. How do you look at the Phase 4 of the Lok Sabha elections? Very interesting that you have simultaneous polls in Odisha and Andhra as well. What, according to you, before we go into state-wise analysis, looking at the larger national picture, what has been the central theme of the campaign ahead of Phase 4?
I think as you go into the next phase of the poll, it will become very clear that the narratives which we are seeing in this election, the BJP and NDA are coming up with a narrative which is a national narrative, development at the national level, leadership of the Prime Minister. That is the central theme. But in states where the non-NDA parties are in power, and Odisha comes in that, Andhra comes in that, Bengal comes in that, Jharkhand comes in that, these are states where the state government is trying to make the election a local election. Those ranged against the NDA, if they are in power in a particular state, in that state, as an alternative to the national narrative, they are coming up with a very, very strong local narrative. And as many of your reporters stated, Bihar may see the role of caste, but I would beg to differ that no election is a single issue election. Caste is a critical part of the basket, but there are other parts of the basket. So in the fourth round, I'm looking for how strong these two narratives will be. There are some states going to the poll for the first time in the phases, and there will be enthusiasm there. There are some states where there is a feeling that has fatigue set in because you are having multiple phases in that state. So that will be another contrast that will be interesting to see in the fourth phase.
That's a crucial point you're making, Mr. Shastri, that some sort of fatigue setting in. And Nishtha Gautam, we have seen a voter turnout particularly low in Maharashtra, even in Bihar, not very impressive. Multiple seats of Uttar Pradesh, also the voter turnout has been concerningly low. Do you see that fatigue setting in? What, according to you, is the primary reason behind this low voter turnout? And what would you appeal to voters, as we head to Phase 4? How do we look at bucking this trend of low voter turnout?
It is very surprising how, states like UP and Bihar are not coming out to vote as they normally have in the past decades. I feel, yes, there is some kind of fatigue setting in, as Mr. Shastri also mentioned. But weather definitely is playing spoil sport, and I don't know why the Election Commission did not take this into consideration while planning. Right. And the other thing is because it becomes very difficult for not just the voters, but also the parties to campaign.
And journalists.
And journalists, yes. It's only people like me who are sitting from the comforts of their air-conditioned rooms. That's the attack that we have to do always sort of face.
Right.
But there is definitely a fatigue that is setting in, and even observers from outside India, they just say, guys, you really love your elections, that you like to protract the process so much, and it becomes very difficult to get a hang of what actually is happening, because how the campaign starts and what the outcome of one particular phase. The first phase is it may turn into something else entirely by the end
Right.
of the last phase, right? And I think what we have seen so far is that the urban electorate is particularly lazy.
Right.
Or
Urban
rather,
apathy is always an issue.
Yes.
That is something that we've
Yes.
really not been able to solve. But, before we come to that, Sandeep Shastri, if you look at the seats going to polls in phase 4, there are very few clean sweep seats actually. There are lots of seats that actually can swing, can spring a surprise. The swing seats, as they're called. So that's going to be interesting as well, because this time the focus is a lot on margins. Given the fact that you have low voter turnout, perhaps also the BJP eyeing a 400 par sort of rally this time around as well. But margins are going to be a key focus, particularly in this phase with a lot of swing seats, going to polls as well.
Vedant, you are 100% right when you say that. I will make a distinction between two types of competitions that you are seeing in the swing seats. There are some swing seats where there is a clear competition between two alliances, like in the case of Andhra Pradesh, the YSR-led alliance and the TDP-led alliance. So the swing seats become even more important when you have new alliances coming up, like in the case of Andhra. On the other hand, if you look at Odisha, if you look at Bengal, if you look at Jharkhand, you are seeing more a tripolar contest in all these three states. And that tripolar contest creates its own momentum with regard to the swing seats. And then, of course, you have states like Maharashtra and Bihar, where there are untested alliances.
Yes.
In Maharashtra, you have two parties in each alliance who are untried before in terms of their electoral presence. So all these imponderables make these swing seats very interesting, because there is no past record with regard to either certain parties or certain alliances contesting in those particular seats. And that's what makes the election more complex and more interesting in this fourth phase.
Absolutely brilliant analysis there, Sandeep Shastri. And, Nishtha Gautam, weigh in on that as well, because alliances are going to be key. Whether you look at Andhra, you have the quote-unquote dream team returning with the TDP and the Janasena and the BJP in fray. Of course, in Bihar, you have a new Mahagathbandhan with Nitish Kumar jumping ship yet again. In UP, you have the RLD now with the BJP. That's interesting as well. In Maharashtra, of course, it's a battle of alliances, untried alliances, as Sandeep Shastri puts it. So, alliances are going to be a key factor, and whether the electorate has actually shifted naturally with the alliance partners, that is going to be a key question also.
Absolutely. There is no evidence, apart from maybe the Bahujan Samaj Party sometimes, that is the only party. And I'm only talking about Uttar Pradesh here because that is one state, it's my home state, and I have some understanding of the voter behavior there. So the en masse shifting of the electorate, of the voter bank, as we see, it doesn't really happen. It only happens in the case of BSP. Right. Apart from that, the states that you mentioned, that there are dream teams there and there is Nitish Kumar jumping the ship again. Again, I have always maintained this, that the voter is also sometimes undecided till the last moment. Till they enter the booth, till they actually press the button, sometimes they are undecided. And it is these equations, for example, take the example of the two parties, the two factions of Shiva Sena and the NCP.
Yes.
The NCP. So, there is this emotionality which is there, which is totally, it has nothing to do with the party, it has everything to do with the leaders.
Right.
People
and
who
also
have
the symbol
away.
Perhaps, because, if one faction has the symbol, then that is going to sort of, yield some dividends. But Sandeep Shastri, let me also look at the south, because you have Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, crucial states going to polls, assembly polls there as well. How do you see the BJP making gains or making a dent down south, particularly in Telangana, because it has increased its vote share, slowly and steadily, but surely so. It has increased its vote share in Telangana, and it has now emerged as an important player in the state.
Now, many would argue that in Telangana, it seems to be in many seats a direct fight between the Congress and the BJP, with the PRS having taken a back seat in many of the seats. And both the BJP and the Congress are approaching the Telangana voter with totally different agendas. The Congress, having just been voted to power in that state, is hoping that the honeymoon period would continue with regard to support of the voter.
Right.
And they are trying to look at the promises they made and they implemented. And the BJP, on the other hand, is attacking both the BRS and the Congress. So it will be interesting to see how things play out in Telangana.
Right.
My sense is both the Congress and the BJP are likely to improve their performance, but who does it more is then the critical question.
Yes.
On the other hand, I think Andhra sees a clear competition between two alliances. Prior to the TDP-led alliance being formed, many people thought the YSR had it going easy for them. The YSR Congress seemed to be at an advantage. But ever since this three-party alliance happened, it has been a much, much, much tougher contest that you see in Andhra Pradesh.
Absolutely. Fascinating there. And the last word to you, Nisha Gautam, I have last 30 seconds on the discussion. More than half of India has voted already. What has been the defining theme, according to you, this election season?
I think the defining theme here has been the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Modi is on the ballot everywhere, in every constituency. It is like a referendum on whether India wants to have Prime Minister Modi as the next Prime Minister on 4th of June or not. I think it is very clear.
Right. Nisha Gautam and Sandeep Shastri, thanks very much for joining us on India Decides Tonight and for decoding the politics of Phase 4, of course, an extremely crucial phase. But election in two Telugu states really are the focus, from Andhra Pradesh to Telangana. Buses, private cars and even trains going out of Hyderabad to the districts and Andhra Pradesh are running over full. There's extra excitement to go to Andhra Pradesh. There are simultaneous assembly polls there as well. We leave you with this report.
We are here at Jubilee bus stand in Secunderabad, where in fact a big rush in all the buses, people trying to go back from Hyderabad to their native places in order to be able to vote on Monday. Both the Telugu states, of course, going to be voting, and in Andhra Pradesh you have not just the parliament elections but also the assembly elections, and big numbers of people from Andhra Pradesh who are residing in Hyderabad and yet have their vote from this side. So ఇంటికి వెళ్తున్నారా ఓటింగ్ కోసం? వేర్ ఆర్ యు గోయింగ్?
ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్
ఓటింగ్ అండ్ కలిసి వచ్చిందనమాట వీకెండ్ కూడా మీకు, లేకపోతే కూడా వెళ్తారా?
వెళ్తాం.
వాట్ అబౌట్ మీరు కూడా అంతేనా? ఏ ఊరు?
కనిగిరి.
ఓటింగ్ కోసం అని ప్రత్యేకంగా వెళ్తున్నారు.
అవును.
Okay, so many people like this, in fact, who do stay in Hyderabad and then want to go across for voting. You are also traveling?
Yes.
For elections?
Yes.
Exciting elections in Andhra Pradesh?
Yeah, exciting.
So you follow the politics back there or follow the politics in Telangana more, or both Telugu states?
Yeah, both states I am following regularly.
Usually all the Telugu speaking people, I would think, are quite excited about both the states, politics in both states. What we do understand is that not just the buses that are full, but private vehicles as well. Political parties also organizing free rides, because of which huge numbers of people are taking that option as well. And in the highways, in fact, there is quite a traffic jam, because the highways are now getting quite chock-a-block because of the huge numbers of people who are traveling from Telangana to Andhra Pradesh to vote in these elections. Hopefully, the turnout will be big this time round and we will not be disappointed with the numbers. In Secunderabad, with camera person Nagaraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.